How do Offensive Player of the Year odds look after round one of the NFL Draft? Let's take a look. Right, checking in here. It is Friday at 4:15 p.m., so we have not started round two yet. We're getting close. I've gone ahead and drawn up this sheet a little bit here. I've got the player listed, I've got the team that they were drafted by, and I've gone ahead and included DraftKings and FanDuel's odds. There are books that offer Rookie of the Year odds besides these two, but with the limits that I have at all the other books, it's not going to be worth it to me to put $3.50 on MGM. So that's $3.50, by the way, if that. Okay, so I'm going to just include these two book odds right now. And I want to walk through where we are after round one. This is going to be a 2 to 3 part series, probably just two. After tonight's draft, after tonight's round 2 and 3, I'll get back on. I'll fill in these blanks, and we can kind of finish talking about what I may like and may not like. So let's just start at the top here. Bijan Robinson was drafted by the Falcons. He is currently the leader or the favorite to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. And this red I put over him is not on accident. This, I think, is a bad play. And it's simply just from an offensive standpoint. I don't think Atlanta is going to be good enough offensively with Desmond Ridder, question mark. I mean, if you look over here, and we'll get to this in a second, team to draft Will Levis, right? Falcons are in the mix here. So I don't know the QB situation in Atlanta, and quite frankly, I don't care what the QB situation is. I am not too keen on the fact that he is 3-1 on an offense that I don't think is going to produce very much. Let's just look and see at the Falcons depth chart real quick and see, it is off season. So I don't keep up as much. I don't know if Patterson's still there. Okay, Patterson's still there. Algier is still there. Huntley, they've not done away with any of their running backs from last year. I think Patterson will still be in the mix. He produced fantastic last season for his age at running back. Let me make sure he's actually old before I just say that. Come on, where's your age? Where's your age, buddy? He's 32. I think that's fairly old for running backs. So at 3-1, I think that's a complete fade. And I know he's a great player. I know he's got speed. I've seen his highlights, right? But I'm fading that pick entirely. That is a red light pick from me. Going down to Bryce Young, who was the first overall pick. He is the second favorite to win. He was drafted by the Panthers, and here are his odds both on FanDuel and DraftKings. I like this play. I think he is a fantastic passer. People talk about size. He's small. I don't care, right? Who is the most famous small quarterback in this division? Drew Brees, no problem, right? Russell Wilson, 3rd-round draft pick, small. That was a thing everybody was talking about. He produced for 10 years in Seattle, right? So Bryce Young's size does not bother me whatsoever, and I think 4-1 is a pretty solid play there for a team that he's going to join and begin as the starter immediately. So that is one of my two favorite picks on this list. My second favorite pick, and potentially I'm going to see how some things go, but maybe end up being my favorite, is C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud was drafted by the Texans. He goes into both of these divisions are fairly weak, or should be fairly weak. 700 on both FanDuel and DraftKings. He, I think, will step right in, and let's look at some of his weapons here. Texans, they do get that Alabama John Mechie back, which would be very helpful. Robert Woods, Mechie, Noah Brown. So he doesn't have a kind of a mixed bag of weapons here. But Dalton Schultz didn't realize he went to the Texans. So I think this could be a decent spot. And while we're here, don't want to change that. Let's go look at the Panthers, see what kind of weapons they have for Bryce Young. Miles Sanders, Chuba Hubbard, Adam Thielen, Chark. Okay. Yeah. This to me speaks more volumes. Get some veterans in there. than Michi, who didn't play last season, and Robert Woods is a veteran. But both of these picks, I don't think you can go wrong with either of these. All right, moving on. Jackson Smith and Jigba. As a Seahawks fan, love the pick, especially when they got him. But I don't think he's going to walk in and join the likes of Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and do anything to the level that we've seen, the other receivers who have won Offensive Rookie of the Year do. Garrett Mitchell last year. Garrett Wilson last year, Jamar Chase the year before, Odell Beckham, Percy Harvin back to 2009, right? So we don't see receivers win this, but every 1 or 2 years, every 4 to 5 years, this, prove me wrong here, two back to back, but usually as a QB running back award. So, I don't think it is his to win by any means, given that he's joining and going to be the third guy on the team. He still will get plenty of action, I think, but not enough to warrant this award. Jamar Gibbs, drafted by Detroit. A lot of people were upset, confused by this. They traded back and then ended up grabbing him there. Kind of weird, given that Lions depth chart, kind of bizarre. Lion D, huh? Musical artist. Yeah, I didn't mean that. Detroit Lions depth chart. I gotta just take my time and type this stuff in, guys. You don't want to see Lion D or whatever I typed in. Just take my time. All right. Running backs, Jamar Gibbs, DeAndre Swift, David Montgomery. I'm not touching that, especially, but there is a pretty big discrepancy. FanDuel's kind of on my side here, 16-1 versus DraftKings 9-1. Sure, great player. Sure, will contribute, but I don't think it's going to be anything that will win the award. All right, moving down to Anthony Richardson, our first yellow light play. I don't mind this play. 900 plus 900 on DraftKings, 9-1. I think that he's going to go into Indy and he's going to start immediately, and he does have some weapons. He's going to be able to run the ball. That offensive line underperformed last year. He's going to get the likes of Jonathan Taylor to kind of take away some of the pressure from him, open up some lanes from him. Definitely some read option coming. But I just, I was in a group chat with some Colts fans last night, and I start, 13 college starts for Richardson. They're, no negativity. No negativity. We're celebrating. Okay. But the 13 starts does worry me a bit. So, it's a QB award, as we have seen. It's a running back award, as we've seen. And I don't think any of the running backs are suited right now to step in and dominate like we've seen Barkley, like we saw Kamara, like we saw Gurley, and even Eddie Lacy back in Green Bay. So I think it's going to be a QB this year, and Anthony Richardson might fit the bill, but I'm just, after watching the Colts the last 3 years, I'm not convinced that he's going to answer, all their problems. So apologies if that offends you. Moving on, Jordan Addison, a receiver who steps into Minnesota, kind of takes the place of Adam Thielen, but with Justin Jefferson there, I don't think he's going to be sharing way too many targets, unless defenses really key in on Jefferson and Addison just goes absolutely bonkers. I don't think he's going to win the award, but 17-16-1, decent. Zay Flowers is a yellow light play simply because if you look at Baltimore Ravens depth chart, make sure I type that in. They just signed Lamar, so they're optimistic with him. I mean, they get Odell, but who's Odell anymore? No one knows. Other than that, Bateman, Duvernay, Aguilar, he now is finally the guy who steps in and I think becomes him, as the kids say. So at 20-1, now I'm interested. He kind of comes into a situation like we saw Garrett Wilson last year with the Jets, who had some kind of veteran presence, but wasn't enough. And what's his? Odell could get hurt with training camp, right? So Lamar is not necessarily going to go out and throw 300 yards every game, but Zay Flowers, I think at 20-1 is someone to watch. Okay, running back here has not been drafted yet. Now Hooker, and Levis. Let's talk about these two. And I'll just quickly add Johnston is a fade completely because Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, same thing. Tons of targets. I'd much rather have Zay Flowers at the same price. So fading on that. Same with Dalton Kincaid, Buffalo. I think he'll produce just fine, okay, but he's not going to do enough to have a tight end. Has a tight end ever won Rookie of the Year offense? No, right? So he's not going to be the first. Sorry, right? Okay, last thing before we cut this video off, we'll try to keep it about 12, 15 minutes here. These two quarterbacks have not been drafted, and I've said this. I think it is a QB year, okay? 3 of my picks, and the top of my picks are QBs. Potentially this Zay Flowers character, but Levis and Hooker. Now, why are they yellow? Because I think depending on where they go will determine completely kind of what we see. Interesting odds here. 20 to 1 and then 40 to 1 over on FanDuel for Hooker, 25 and 25. You know, if you would have looked before the draft at Will Levis's Rookie of the Year odds, it was probably closer to 10 to 1. Him falling out of the first round probably messed some people up and a little bit weary. So let's look up here. Will Levis, team to draft him right now. The Titans are the favorite. Rams are the favorite. Raider, right? Hooker, we got Raiders, Vikings, Seahawks. A lot of this is just depending on where they think they'll fall, what other team needs in the draft. So what I want to say is ultimately, I think if you're going to take either of these two guys and you're confident in that, you do it now, especially this 40 to 1 with Hooker, right? However, when I look at the teams that could draft them, I'm a little skeptical. Titans still have Tannehill. They still have Malik. What's his name? Sorry. Malik. Titans QB. Malik Davis? Malik Davis. Can you hear? Malik Willis. Sorry. Malik Willis, right? And Malik Willis stepped in for Ryan Tannehill this year and looked, I thought, pretty decent. So will they take those two guys and then throw them to the side for Hooker? I don't see it. Rams still have Stafford, but outside of that, nobody. So if they take somebody in and then have Stafford kind of mentor him for a year before Stafford retires or does whatever he's going to do, I think that's a good draft pick, but for Rookie of the Year, no. Raiders have Jimmy Garoppolo. Who knows what they're thinking, but they're, top 3 of both of these. Still not enough to sway me. Patriots doesn't make any sense in my mind. Mac Jones. Falcons is interesting. Do the Falcons just not believe in Desmond Ridder anymore? I don't know. Lions, I thought they were content with Goff. Who knows? So we go down here. Raiders. Are the Vikings going to really replace Kirk Cousins or back him up? Seahawks signed Geno, and so are we going to? I say we because again I'm a Seahawks fan. Are we going to put him behind Geno for a year? Wait for it. I say all of this to say I'm not sure if either of these two guys are going to get drafted by a team tonight and immediately become the starter, unquestionable leader of this team. So because of that, I'm going to fade them. I'm going to say maybe. 40 to 1 is interesting, but ultimately I just am not sure about these two. But since I like QB, they are a yellow light. They are a possibility. Let's say Levis gets drafted by the Rams and Stafford, re-injures his neck or whatever he was hurt with last year. He steps into a team that's established, that has a good coaching staff, that has playmakers, maybe. So that's what I'm looking at. Again, I'll get back on here potentially and kind of give you an updated situation after this second round. But this is where we are so far. Best of luck to you if you choose to throw any money down on this, if you throw some free bets. Again, Stroud at 7 to 1 and Bryce Young at 4 to 1, 5 to 1 would be my plays. So just something to keep in mind. And we'll see you next time for part 2 of Offensive Rookie of the Year.